about. Let's first start with Sherry Hilton.
Sir, I was just wondering, what is the latest on the balanced budget?
We are anticipating that the balanced budget amendment that would require the Constitution to be amended will come before the Senate again sometime during this Congress. We lost by only one vote. We think that we have at least a fighting chance to pass it if we bring it up on another occasion. Senator Dole switched his vote at the last minute, so he will be eligible to offer a motion to reconsider that resolution at some time later this year or next year.
President Clinton this morning is hailing news that the jobless rate fell, also criticizing the House GOP's tax cut plans. He says that it would give money to the better off and inflate the deficit again. What's your comments on that?
It's really encouraging to see the jobless rate come down. In Mississippi particularly, we're delighted that we have a low rate of unemployment, much lower than we've had in many years. I think this is a testament not only to our leadership in the state government. I think Governor Fordyce and others there have really helped motivate the development of business opportunity in Mississippi through aggressive policies to attract industry and also to support those job-producing industries that we already have in our state. But it's certainly not, I don't think, the policies of the Clinton administration which ought to be credited with this improvement. There are many other things that have happened, most of which is the hard work and the business ingenuity of American free enterprise entrepreneurs. That's where the jobs are being created, not by government.
And one last question, sir. Bob Dole has mentioned that he might step down to run for president as the Senate Majority Leader, which would put Trent Lott in that position next in line. Wondered what your plans are.
We'll have to wait and see what Senator Dole will do. I get the impression that he intends to remain in that position for the duration of his term, for the next 2 years, unless he's elected president. I would be very surprised if he steps down. He said that it's possible, if he does win Iowa and New Hampshire primaries, that he might consider taking time off to concentrate fully on the campaign from then on out. But frankly, if he wins both of those primaries, I think the election is pretty much over and he won't need to step down. But that remains to be seen, and if he does step down, I'm sure the conference will call an election. That's what happened in the case of the last leader we had in the Senate. Everett Dirksen died in office. The assistant leader at the time was elected to replace him, but there was an election held, and I think that would be the case in this situation.
So what are your plans in terms of the National Republican Party leadership?
Well, I don't really have any. I am serving as chairman of the Republican Conference right now. It's a job that I am very flattered to have. I chair the meetings of all of our Republican senators when we talk about strategy and our legislative agenda, have elections of officers and the like, and I am very happy to have that role. And my intention is to try to do as good a job as I can and let the future take care of itself. Let's now go to Jimmy Andrews in Meridian.
Hi, Senator. Navy Secretary John Dalton and some other officials made a pitch for the Base Closure Commission on Monday, basically asking them to allow the Air Force to use the base for joint training. They were turned down for that. Do you think this is a first swing and a miss for NAS Meridian?
I did not get the impression that they were necessarily turned down. I got the impression that the Air Force is charged with the job of reviewing the feasibility of that proposal. The Navy, I think, really does not want to close the Meridian Naval Air Station, and they're looking for options to keep it open. We have the anti-drug task force that's already there, the training academy. That is likely to stay. These airfields are great national assets, in my opinion, and they can be used by other services or the Navy for other purposes besides just having a self-sustaining pilot training facility run by the Navy at that location. So I'm hopeful that getting the Navy Secretary to talk in a positive way, as he did, about the option of involving the Air Force or other services or even other Navy activities at Meridian is a very positive sign. They've recommended that it be closed. I know that. But we're looking for other options, and they're cooperating in that effort right now, and we're very grateful for that. Let's now go to Tom Russo in Hattiesburg.
Senator, in looking at the errors decision, I don't know if you've had a chance to study that. What is your take on that for Mississippi's universities? Do you think this has been a positive move?
The only thing I've been able to do so far is to read the press accounts of the Ayers case, and I must say that at least we're moving to a point of resolution of this issue. And I'm really glad to see us this close, in my view, to a final resolution. The board has decided not to appeal the case. There are other parties, of course, and they'll have to make decisions about whether to appeal or not. My hope is that we can use this decision as a basis for developing policies that ends discrimination in higher education and helps improve the quality of higher education throughout Mississippi. We have been doing an excellent job in our state, I think, of trying to deal with racial issues and with quality of education issues. Our teachers are more dedicated and harder working than ever. We've got a lot of people putting in a lot of time and effort in state government, in local governments. A lot of parents are more involved than ever before, and our students are working harder than ever before. We've got a lot to be proud of in our state in terms of our progress in education, and I hope we don't let this be a hurdle. We need to use it as a basis to build for the future and to build an even better education system in our state.
Senator, I also wanted to ask you about the Republican Party. We're working on a story today looking at more of the local elections. There are a number of elections in our areas and throughout the counties where there are no Republicans on the ballot. Do you think the Republican revolution will start trickling down to more of these local races?
I think we have a lot of candidates this year who are running as Republicans. Many who have been successful candidates in the past on the Democratic ticket are now running on the Republican ticket. While we don't have a candidate in every race in every county, we do have more candidates than ever before, and we have good quality candidates. I think the likelihood is that we'll win control of the state Senate in the state elections this year. That's the report I get from state party headquarters, and that's very exciting. This party has really grown a lot in the last several years, from a point when we had only less than 10 really members of the House and Senate in the state legislature, now over 40, and that's quite a change. And with the governor and the lieutenant governor leading the way, I think this year is going to be a banner year for the Mississippi Republican Party.
Some political science professors in this area have said that Mississippi has a 1.5-party system. When do you anticipate that we'll have a true two-party system?
Well, as soon as we get some more Republican political science professors.
Thank you.
Let's now go to Sonia Morris in Greenwood.
Good morning, sir. Hello?
Hi, Sonia.
Okay. I know that following the November 8th election that you headed up a GOP strategic planning group, and the goal of that group was to present ideas to the majority leader for implementation in the first 100 days. We're now a few days past the 100-day mark. Are you satisfied with the accomplishments of the GOP thus far?
Well, we haven't completed action on all of our agenda items. We have a list of priorities that we identified, and we've already taken action on a few of them. We are now acting on regulatory relief, which is a major initiative of our Republican leadership here in Congress this year. We think the federal government has imposed regulations on farmers, on businessmen and women that are unnecessarily expensive, that are onerous, that put impediments in the way of job-producing business activity unnecessarily, and we need to change that. And so we're trying to get a greater degree of control over the regulation writing process. We hope to do that, first of all, with a moratorium on legislation that we reported out of a committee this week. We hope that it's on the floor next week for action by the full Senate, and we can get Democrats to support this with us. We are fearful, though, and I'll be honest about this, that the Democrats may try to block this legislation. The President has already started criticizing Republican efforts to get more control over the regulation writing process, criticizing it because it's insensitive to the environment or health and safety interests, and that's just not true. What we're aiming at are those regulations that don't make sense to start with, or they cost more than they produce in the way of benefits. We need a better system for cost-benefit analysis, and we're going to insist on it. We hope that we can get the Democrats to yield and to join us in passing this bill. Let's now go to Russ Powell with the Radio Network.
Senator, according to Families USA, Senator Dole has indicated that federal Medicaid funding could be reduced by $75 billion over the next 5 years. Is this a possibility, and if so, how would it adversely affect the elderly in Mississippi?
I'm not sure exactly how much reduction we're going to see in any individual federal program. The budget is just now being crafted by our Senate Budget Committee. The House Budget Committee is working on a proposal as well. It's going to take action in both houses, then a conference to get together and resolve differences in both these resolutions before we'll know the answer to that. I think, though, that we are emphasizing an across-the-board review of all federal programs to see where we can make savings that don't impose hardships on the American people. We think that we can make savings and cut spending without harming our economy and without really devastating any one segment of our population, including those who are poor. We have to realize that there are some people who have to depend upon the government for help, either to meet nutrition or health care needs or housing needs. But we know there are abuses in some of these programs, and we need to get the abuse out of the programs. We need to tighten up the regulations so that we have efficiently run programs so that we don't waste money, and we know that's happened in the past. So the object of our efforts to cut spending are targeted at abuse, at waste, at fraudulent activities that we can identify in some federal programs. And I think when we get through the process, people are going to be relieved, first of all, that they're not nearly as harmful or harmful at all as the president says they're going to be, or some of these groups who are criticizing the effort to cut spending. But we've seen the federal government spend too much for too long, and it's causing us serious consequences for our economic well-being. We have a dollar that is falling in relation to the value of foreign currencies now, and I think a lot of that is fear that the size of the federal deficit is going to erode our economic well-being to the point where we are in as serious a trouble as maybe Mexico is. So it's time for us to act on the spending issue. And to do so, we know we're going to get criticized by some, but I would hope that people would withhold their criticism at least until we've had a chance to make some serious proposals. Right now, those proposals are in the early stages, and a lot of work is going to be done between now and then when we know what the final budget numbers are going to be.
And we understand that the first meeting on the Farm Bill was held. Can you comment on that?
We did have hearings in our Agriculture Committee on farm policy changes. It's exciting, really, to have the opportunity to review these programs. I talked about the marketing loan at the hearing because it's been one of those programs that's worked well, in my opinion. It has in Mississippi. In cotton and rice production, we've seen really a lot of growth in those industries and sales that have increased not only in foreign markets, but our domestic market sales have increased substantially under this program. And so it's a good time to talk about the things that are helping agriculture grow and prosper. We always hear the bad news, but we had a hearing and talked about some of the good things as well. We know we've got to tighten up on those programs too. They're not immune from review in terms of trying to save money there as well. And we're going to make some savings. We know that because of international agreements, we're not going to have to spend as much to combat unfair trade practices from overseas. We may have to have some programs that are authorized to be used for that purpose, but we hope we won't have to spend the amounts that we've had to in the past on that. So we can cut back. And we hope without jeopardizing farm income, because there's not much margin in many of our farming operations in Mississippi for cutting back, and so we're going to have to be very careful.